Hey guys, this is Cliff. Long overdue, but I think we're finally ready to start getting going with new videos. We've got the studio area all cleaned up. I've even got a new shirt, so we know we're professional now. We're going to go ahead and start this video series, and we're hoping to do one once a week so you can enjoy it on Sundays. First video of the new series is going to be back to the very basics. It's a 1x30. We're going to go ahead, and this is straight out of the box, and this is what you need to do to take your machine as you get it out of the box and tune it up and get it ready to be used. And we'll start here in just a minute. Let me get going. Thanks. Okay, let's just start with a little walk around on the machine. We've got our basic AC motor. This is the tracking tension knob and swing arm. Around here we got our drive wheel. This is the upper idler, and this is the back swing arm idler. This is probably the most critical part. We'll get to that last and focus in on that. First thing, let's see how it runs straight out of the box. Okay, so confirmed it does run. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the safety shield off, and we're going to do some stuff to this up here as well and make this more useful. That's in the optional section later on. Okay, I had to get a little more set up there. I've taken the belt off, but as you can see, this tracking tension arm does not move, and it's supposed to. It's spring loaded. So what we need to do is we need to loosen this bolt right there. Got a socket, got a quick little crescent on the back side. All you gotta do is just crack that loose, and now this will actually cause tension. That's your belt tensioning method, and we'll talk more later about how it can move forward further to allow some tight belts to get on there and the Scotch-Brites and stuff. But this is the very first thing and the most common thing that people don't know that they got to do, and that makes it so the machine can run. And this is how you put the belts on and off the machine. Is you squeeze here. I like to go put the belt on the top, put it around the front, hold it with my thumb, and then I squeeze and slide the belt right on. And then you're good, then you're ready to go. The other thing that will happen when you do that is now the tension of the belt is pushing this idler wheel up into the frame. This is a design flaw, or maybe it's a manufacturing oversight in how the casting works, but the idler tire is now rubbing against the frame right here, and I'm going to go ahead and pause and I'll zoom in and show you that area. And we can see we've loosened this tracking tension so it can move, but when we move to the forward it actually hits the frame of the machine. And I'm going to go ahead and try and zoom in a little more, and then we will see what we can do to make that happen. The first thing we want to do is we want to get the spring out of the way. And now you can clearly see that sharp edge, and that hits right up against that wheel. And what we need to do is we just need to grind a little bit of material out of here, and that's going to stop the wheel from hitting that part of the frame, and it acts like a brake. Okay, here you can see the Sharpie, green Sharpie marker on green paint, but you can see the spot where I'm going to grind this out. And I won't show the grinding. I'm just going to go ahead and use a diamond barrel Dremel bit. You could use a hand file, whatever you got available. It doesn't take much. It's just soft aluminum. Okay, that just took 30 seconds or less. And I took and I ground out the material right in through here. And then I move the wheel all the way forward and check and see if it spins or if it's got free range of motion. And now I actually have, it'll spin freely when it's pushed all the way forward. That means when I put the belt on there and it's under tension all the way to the front, it won't pinch and bind on the frame. So that's a huge difference. That'll make a big difference when we get to the Scotch-Brite belts later on. They'll fit better as well. We want to go ahead and take that spring and put it back in, tuck it in from behind, tuck it behind the idler wheel, and then it just goes right down in that little spot right there. And that little spring then means this whole area is spring loaded and it doesn't bind on the frame. So we are chicken dinner winner. Let's go on to the next step. Okay, so I know I'm being a little redundant, but it's just worth repeating one more time. The most critical things for this machine to operate correctly are that it has a free range of motion on the tracking and the tension arm, so that it can put tension on the belt, and that when it is fully at the front, that the idler wheel does not pinch or bind against the frame and you just grind a little bit of material out. That's 98% of what needs to be done. After that, what I would do, and caution is advised, but to true the wheels that are on the machine, you need to have some sort of stable surface, and then you apply sandpaper to the wheel. You got to be super careful. This wheel's spinning at 30 or 40 miles an hour, 3,450 RPMs. So you do want to be careful. But if you're careful enough, you know, you can just true these wheels up, even if it's just a you know, an on-the-fly kind of truing, by turning the wheel on. I'm being really careful to keep my fingers clear, and I'm pushing. Ideally, you'd want a firm, solid block, but I'm also following the contour of the wheel. And just in a couple minutes, we'll go ahead and we'll check and see what that did to the surface. So that surface, there was a couple spots where there was high and low spots on the wheel. And I'll go ahead and zoom us in so you can see that part. Hopefully that shows up on the camera. This is now smoothed out, and you can feel it, it's smooth. There was some casting marks and some other things that were in the way, and now we've gotten rid of those casting marks, and it's going to run smoother just by taking that 30 seconds and doing that. I will show the upper idler wheels as well, and that is arguably a little more tricky. Again, if you're not comfortable doing something like this, you know, don't take risks that you're not ready to comfortable doing. But here's the machine itself. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get the sanding surface caught up in the belt that's spinning around. But if you hold it down lower, then it's safe. I'll start with this one. It's spinning this way. It does want to pull on it, and you do want to be careful that you don't get it sucked in. But just doing that for 30 seconds will make a huge difference. And this one here is also the same. Again, completely optional. Caution is advised. You know, hazard at your own risk. The difference that we'll be able to see in the wheel is now it's much smoother, and it's rounded off just by doing that. It's gonna, so there you got a basic truing of the wheels, and functionally this machine would be ready to go. You put your platen in place, and we'll talk, I guess we'll talk next about the platen and how to adjust that forward of the belt. I think before we do the platen adjustment and where it should sit, we should take a look also at the tracking. The first thing I look at is to make sure we got about an equidistance, even if it's off the machine, which it is at the moment. And then the knob here will adjust the tracking left to right. And so what I'm looking at is that the tracking is here on the wheel. It's straight on this wheel, but down here it's about 2 millimeters off to the inside. So what I would do is I would take this upper idler and I would move it out just a couple millimeters, and I'll go ahead and get that tool and I'll show you that close up. Okay, so to get these front two to where they're lined up, I'm going to take this 3 millimeter Allen wrench We're going to loosen this up. I'm going to move this out about 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, and then I'm going to tighten it back down, and then we'll see if both of these are lined up. So the belt can go in and out, but we want to make sure that the wheels are in the right position as well. So now I've got the belt. If I turn it sideways, maybe you can see a little better. So on the top idler, the belt is square on the wheel, and at the bottom it's not overhanging on the left or right also. I still have tracking and tension adjustment either way, but this means that it's centered and squared on the belt. Okay. And with those things in place, I can go ahead and we can start looking at the positioning of where to put the platen. Let's take a look at the platen, where to place it. Now, if you're using it with an angle guide, the angle guide itself will be a little thicker, so you may want to have the platen be back just a hair to leave room for the angle guide to fit down over the top. Personally, I prefer to have the belt and the platen itself be perfectly flush. And so what I do is I bring the belt straight up until it just touches the platen, or the platen touches the belt, and then you can mark it with a Sharpie marker, or however you want, and make sure it's side to side, front to back, and get that into position. A little bit of tension is good if it just presses on the belt just a little bit, but you definitely don't want it out like this or putting heavy pressure on it. That's just going to cause an excessive amount of friction. So get it like this, mark it in place, and then screw it down and lock it into position. Okay, so we got our platen attached, and I did leave it with just a little bit of a gap so I can show you what it looks like with the angle guide. And I like to set mine down at about 15 to 17 degrees. Everybody's got their own choice. We'll talk about the angle guide more in sharpening and edge leading and edge trailing in upcoming videos, but right now I just want to kind of walk through this. And again, sorry, it's been long overdue. So with the angle guide in place, the thickness, oh, they're tight when they're brand new. The thickness of the metal is about what you want, and maybe it's a 1/2 mil. Again, I go top idler, bottom idler, left thumb to hold it back, and then I pinch on the right, and it's ready to go. You can actually hear it's running quieter than they do when they're stock. Some of that is the Trizac belt. Now, I still think this motor's too fast, but at this point you're up and running, and you could do, you know, I did sharpen for a couple years before I did it. You just have to have a really light touch as you approach the tool. Very quick pass. A couple of quick swipes is all it takes. But that's about twice as fast as I like to sharpen. Again, you can do it. We're not concerned. We're not grinding. We're not holding it in place. There is no discoloration of the metal. There's no severe heat damage. But it's not ideal. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the next things that we can do. This is the basic setup for the machine. You now have tracking and tension. You've got it properly calibrated and adjusted, and it's smooth and it's ready to go. Optional things that you could do at this point that I'll demonstrate next would be to remove the top part of this metal that exposes this upper idler area, and then you can use that for doing concave blades, recurves, and things like that, where you want to get in and use this maybe for Scotch-Brite and other things as well. So I'll go ahead and pause, and then we'll get that prepped, and that'll be some of the last stuff we show today. Okay, I figured I'd just wing it. We'll do this live here. And I'm just going to take the little 3 millimeter or the little 3 Allen wrench, take this out, get it out of the way. Take my Sharpie. I'm going to take and just mark a line straight across. And then get my safety goggles on. Not those safety goggles, those safety goggles. Then I'm just going to go ahead and cut this right up. Hopefully it's not too loud. The other thing I like to do is I like to remove this front section here as well, right through here. And you can see why. It's so that you expose this whole wheel, and then you can use that wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do that off camera, and then I'll bring you back right as I get done. Okay. So with that done, this will, when it's locked into place, there we go. Now you can see, let me zoom you in. You can see how much of the wheel is exposed, so that when you put your belt on, now if you want to do recurve or hollow grind, now you can actually come up here, and at the top of the thing you can get full access to do scratch removal or zero grinds, hollow grinds, things like that. It makes this whole area a useful part of the machine where it wasn't useful at all before. Thoughts on part one. These are typically how they come when you get them out of the box. There's usually a couple things that aren't quite, you know, ready to go with them. It's a $50 or $60 little machine, but with a couple minutes and a little time, you can actually make it a useful tool. You can see how the spring-loaded action is now, it's freely moving, and it should sound like, you know, quite a bit quieter. That's the same machine, so we haven't done anything special to it, and you got the upper area that you can use now as well. The wheels feel smoother, it's running truer, and overall, it's ready to go on to phase 2. I'm going to go ahead and just pause right here, clean up the workbench, get out the new motors and the new drive wheels and idlers, and we'll swap those out straight in. No hocus pocus. It should be an easy swap out, and then you guys can see the benefits and the effects of doing that for the next part, for part 2. Bear with me. It's been a while, and hopefully this is watchable. I'm going to turn it over to my professional editing team, who's now a sophomore in high school, so hopefully he's got his skills together, and we'll see you guys for the next one. Thanks for watching. Aloha.